So one of the great things about the 40K lore, the 40K narrative, the 40K universe is that no side is truly innocent or truly guilty. A lot of it depends on the point of view. And this is one of the reasons why I enjoy playing Chaos. I enjoy playing the Traitor Legions because certainly they betrayed their oaths. Certainly they betrayed the Emperor. Certainly they've led humanity down a dark path. But at the same time, if you can get behind the charisma, the vision of Horus, you can begin to see, based on some of the Emperor's actions. And for those of us that really follow the lore, yes, the Emperor restored pre-heresy. Yes, the Emperor restored order to the galaxy, pre-Imperium. And his plan from the Golden Throne, knowing the dangers of the warp, restoring the Eldar webway, was key. So all of his focus going back to that, turning over the legions to Horus, turning over the crusade as it was winding down to Horus. When we read these books and when we look at these narratives, we have access to that knowledge. We're like, Horus, you couldn't see this. But from his perspective and from the loyalty of the Marines fighting for him, the legions fighting for him, you can understand that. And then there's certain actions that we can begin to respect on this. And one of the things that I've always respected, I love the World Eaters. Part of that is because I like playing in all game systems, close combat. I love the idea of bolt pistols and chain swords. So the fact that pre-heresy we have this massive tech level available out there, and even post-heresy, the Imperium is very technologically advanced. But we have an entire legion. I mean, yeah, they had bolters, but we had an entire legion dedicated to martial perfection on there. And I find the irony interesting in a game system of space elf magics and technological terrors and demons and psychics and gigantic Titan war machines. We're still pumping out chainswords and close combat weapons and bolt pistols and las pistols and stuff like that. And that is often, ask the Imperial Guard, that is often the way to take ground when everything else has failed. So in that, though, on a parallel side, what I really respected about Angron and the World Eaters was this idea that Angron led the rebellion of the gladiators. He stood with them. They fought. And in that moment when the Emperor appeared to him and said, very kind of like, I am your father type thing, I'm going to take you back. You're going to be in charge of the Legion. He said no. What other Primarch said no on there? He said, no, I'm not going to leave my men. That is the ultimate test of loyalty. And for me, the seeds of heresy were planted right there because the Emperor would not allow himself to be defied. The Emperor gave an order, you're coming with me, and Angron said, no, I'm staying here with my men. I'm going to die with my men. He wouldn't have died. The Emperor, what another couple of days for the rebellion to be over and to allow Angron his martial honor, but the Emperor robbed him of that. So it's interesting in that moment, of betrayal, there were many things where the Emperor asked his Primarchs to do crazy deeds, but the Emperor himself, I see as human on there. So when we see this, and we see this back and forth, this now leads us to another figure of mine that I've always enjoyed when 40K has kind of fleshed it out and explored it, Luther, the Dark Angels. Now, for the first time in a long time, Games Workshop, and I applaud them for this, they have an amazing narrative, amazing IP, and they're advancing the storyline. For all the years that I've been playing 40K, it's always been the Golden Throne is failing. The Golden Throne is failing, and chaos, and this and that, and okay, Abaddon's going to launch a crusade, and it's been a great world to play in, but we're like kind of stuck on there. And now as Games Workshop is advancing and bringing back these Primarchs and digging into that lore, we begin to see some of the sacred teachings of Luther, where he was right. How could he be correct if he's a heretic and he's locked in the rock there? There's some truth to it. So looking at that, I applaud that they're advancing it, and Cypher is advancing on there, and eventually we'll have, the Lion return and things like that. But looking back in this lore, in any other age, Luther would have been a man of legend. He would have been a man. He was well respected among the other Knights of Caliban, and from that perspective, but he would have gone down in history. The Lion stole everything from him. We see this parallel of, in my mind, where the Primarchs were certainly God-men, but those under them, they were linked. So the very thing that the Emperor did to Angron, the Lion did to Luther. And certainly wherever the Lion wound up, he would have excelled because he had the genetics of a Primarch, but it was Luther that guided him, that literally gave him that essence. So to be turned on like that, who can say with that? So I don't blame Luther, and I find a lot of his prophecies very, very interesting, because years ago when I was playing Dark Angels, I was playing all Deathwing on there, and loving that. There were a couple of friends of mine that are still to this day. I don't consider myself a Dark Angel player anymore. I haven't played them in a long time, but I love their lore on that. There's still a few friends that continue to play Dark Angels with the level of dedication over the years that I have played with my Samhan Warhost on there. So they are certainly experts, but I will debate this with them. The prophecies of Luther were very key, and over the years we would debate back and forth, and Luther's a heretic, and the Dark Angels scattered through time, that collaborate his story. It's disjointed because they're discounted based on chaos. A big argument was... and I'll have to put a link down under here to take my blog to post this image. In the Chaos Codex, was the 4th edition Chaos Codex, they showed some of the post-heresy legions on there, current Chaos legions like the Purge and Death Guard and all these things. There was one that was black armor, kind of a Dark Angel symbol, and it said classified out there. The Inquisition knows. In Holy Terra, those data stacks, they know. So this was a direct kind of port over, where my friends who were Dark Angels players were saying, look, see, the Dark Angels scattered through time with the original black power armor. They're heretics. They're chaos. So Luther is chaos. And my counter to that was, wait, every Warhammer 40K codex, and I don't know if some of the new players are aware of this, if you guys know this, every codex that you read, every army book that you read, is from the perspective of the Imperium, is from the perspective as if the High Lords of Terra have released the information as they know it. And this is how Games Workshop has conveniently said over the years why some things change and back and forth. The Necrons used to be star gods, now they're not star gods, and that makes sense, because ultimately with data corruption and kind of the bureaucracy of the Golden Throne of Holy Terra, it makes sense. But when you are reading your army book, remember, that's not, an Eldar book, that's from the perspective of the Imperium. There's truth in there, but it's not full truth. So in that understanding, I'm showing and saying, look, this Chaos book, this Chaos Codex, the 4th edition Chaos Codex, it's not from the perspective of chaos. Well, first of all, it would be like in Runes of Blasphemy, that would just have us go mad in that moment. But it's from the perspective of the Imperium. So if the Imperium is refusing to acknowledge the original power armor Dark Angels as chaos, it's not showing it out there. What does that tell you? There's these bits and pieces to Luther's madness in there. He knows the truth, but it's interesting to see that truth as we move ahead. And I consider him to be a very, very important prophet towards the end times of where 40K is going to go. I don't know. In this new edition, what do you guys think about that piece of lore on there in terms of Luther being a prophet? And Dark Angel players, yes, I want to hear the feedback and comment. But I got to discount you personally just a little bit there because, you're a little bit biased. Same thing with some of the Eldar prophecies out there with, I'm a little bit biased on that also on there. The Tears of Vol and things like that and how they tie into the Blackstone Fortress. That's only natural for the armies that we love. But I think we can agree there is a little bit of truth in there.